Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Good afternoon. I'm Sally Sue Lavigne from the Storybook Shop in Bluffton, South Carolina, and I get the distinct pleasure to introduce you all to my friend, Steven. Steven's an amazing author who grew up surrounded by farmlands before eventually moving to California, with notably fewer cows. But somehow along the way, he married his legend of a wife, adopted an annoyingly cute dog, I want to know what kind, and developed the penchant for writing that hasn't seemed to shake. Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Knight is his debut fabulous novel. Good afternoon, Steven.
Hey, Sally Sue, how's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah, so Bingo is a dachshund, some kind of dachshund mix. He is not here. He's usually next to me as I write or sit next to the computer, but my wife took him out of the house because he has a tendency to bark whenever someone comes to the door, and I don't want this podcast to just be full of barking in the background.
Well, we're so lucky to meet you in person when we went at CI. Tell me, what did it feel like to have your very first event for your book in front of 400 plus booksellers?
Oh my, it was incredible. So I don't know if we talked about this at the event. So before kind of getting into this world of publishing and writing, I spent 10 years in kind of a very corporate environment, working for a large healthcare builder, kind of on the construction engineering contract side of things, and always just kind of wrote as a hobby after work. So to have Children's Institute be my first like foray into kind of publishing and the world of book selling was absolutely amazing, because it was quite different from the conferences I'm used to going to, if you could imagine. Everyone was seriously so mind-blowingly just lovely and amazing to meet. Just to be able to talk to people and get to hear where they're from and how they've got into book selling. And what was nice about it being Children's Institute was because it was so focused on children, everyone was so excited to just get books into the hands of kids. And I think that was just so clear and so nice to see, honestly.
I really loved it. Hey, tell me about Pumpkin Princess and Hollowell Valley.
Yeah, so it's a book set in the Hollowell Valley, which is kind of essentially the land of the undead, but Eve, my main character, doesn't come from there. She comes from the land of the living, kind of spending her childhood trapped in an orphanage she's just constantly wants to get out of, until the night she's fleeing again, and somehow through chance or something else ends up running into the fabled Pumpkin King, who ends up offering to adopt her as his daughter and take her into the Hollowell Valley. And from there, that's kind of where the book kicks off. You know, we're in this new place. Eve's this fish out of water. She's not only a fish out of water in this new setting, surrounded by vampires, talking scarecrows, ghouls, and ghosts, but also fish out of water in the terms of she's new to a family for the first time. She's never been a daughter. She's never had family or friends. She was very much on her own for most of her childhood. And from there, it's very much a story of Eve getting to learn what it means to be a daughter and a friend, while also very much having to learn what it means to be the only living girl in a valley full of non-living undead.
I love it. I love the cozy vibes and all of the a little bit of Halloween, but a little bit of every other thing we feel. And I wonder, what made you create Hollowell Valley?
Yes, I think honestly, the way you just said that was so spot on. It was never meant to be just Halloween. I think if it had been centered around Halloween, the whole vibe of the book would have been very different. It would have been spooky focused, and I'm notoriously a scaredy cat. The book was always centered around, and to me was at the heart, a book that was meant to not only look but feel like autumn. And there's this sense I love about autumn, despite, like, you know, just how great the season is. that there's this like natural earthiness to it, but also it's still eerie and mystical at the same time. And there's a lot going on. It's darker, um, but like trees are more colorful. It's colder, but like way more cozier inside. And I just kind of wanted to wrap all that in a book and spend 1,000 hours writing it and set Eve's world there. And I think that's what made it cozy to me. Wasn't focused on spooky. Spooky is just a part of fall. It's the Halloween season, and we get a little bit of that. But it was always kind of rooted in that like family and belonging that I tend to feel around that season. With Thanksgiving and the holidays. And I think that's at the core of Eve's journey as well. That makes her feel so relatable as she's going through these things that are relatable, trying to find a family, trying to find belonging. But just wrapped in this aesthetic that I just wanted to look like my Pinterest boards, where it just feels cozy and warm and inviting, but also kind of this dark fantasy aesthetic as well.
I love that. And I love that at the center of this book, there is a bookshop. As
Yes.
a bookseller, you've centered it around a bookshop. And I love those characters, and those are some of my favorites. But who are your favorites and why?
Oh man, so I've had I've had this question asked to me, where someone said, "Who's your favorite character and why is it Scraggs, the talking scarecrow?" And I do love Scraggs. I don't know if he's my favorite. I will say when I started writing Scraggs the Scarecrow, he was never meant to be the weird like Dobby house elf, Mary Poppins, Alfred like Pennyworth like combination he became. But I think my favorite character tends to be the person I'm writing at the moment. With book one, I very much loved writing Eve and the Pumpkin King. The Pumpkin King, because he was this growling, grumpy individual that contrasted so well to kind of Eve's introversions and Eve's worries, and I think those two things were kind of what made me love writing Eve so much. And just Eve in general was she always felt complex, but never too complicated where I didn't think she was relatable. I think it just made her real, to be honest. And she does tend to be the toughest of my characters to write sometimes, despite her being the protagonist. Because I've always, with a character that's kind of lives in her own head, a little more introverted, loves her books as she spends most of her time at the bookstore. She doesn't always come across as bubbly or kind of popping off the page like some middle grade protagonists do. But I don't think every middle grader in the world is bubbly and popping off the page. I think Eve fits into, a type I very much felt I was growing up. And she's still, exciting and fun and real, and she's kind of snappy and smart. And I think that's why she'll always kind of hold that special place as one of my favorite characters. I also love her friend Lila. I think because Lila, her witch in training friend Lila, because Lila's typically me breaking the fourth wall when I'm writing. If Lila says something, this will be a little hint to book two, which I'm working on right now. Lila dislikes parades, and that's very much me coming across in Lila. I even Vlad love parades. Lila not so much, and I don't like them either. So that's me coming across in Lila a little bit.
Well, and I love the way that you made Eve have this sort of, you could feel her tentativeness, how she was eager to have the family, but so very tentative to like name it for fear of losing it. And I
Yeah.
wonder if there's anything that you've been afraid to name or push forward to for the fear of it not being real and for fear of losing it.
This book. When I yeah, so yes. So yeah, I didn't tell friends or family I was writing this book. I didn't tell friends or family I was writing at all. It's something I always just did for myself to kind of escape into, and I've always loved that about books as the escapism offered, and it offered me an escape from my very stressful job at the time. And that's why I wrote Pumpkin Princess, to just escape into this world I wanted to be in. I wanted to live in. I wanted to know the Pumpkin King. I wanted to see his relationship grow with Eve. But I was so I never wanted to say it was going to be a book. I never wanted to say I wanted it published. I never wanted to kind of put that pressure on myself as I wrote it. I wrote it for me and my wife to just be this fun escapist place to disappear into. And when we pitched it to agents, I still didn't tell friends or family. And when I signed an agent and she started to pitch it to publishers and editors, I still didn't tell friends and family. So this is, several months to a year where most of my friends and family didn't even know I was writing, let alone trying to get this book made. And then the day we signed my publisher, Little Brown Books for Young Readers, who have been absolutely amazing. I still don't think I told anyone for a day. I just kind of wanted to sit on that with myself and my wife for a day. And then the next day I started to tell people because at that point it kind of felt real. No, I take that back. We waited until the contract was signed, which was like several weeks later. So I was sitting on it for a long time because I was so paranoid if I told anyone I was going to jinx it and the book was just going to disappear out of my grasp and never become a thing. Yeah, so much like Eve being too scared to ever call the Pumpkin King dad, I was too scared to ever call Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Knight a book.
Okay, now I want you to say these three things. Pumpkin Knight and the Forever Knight is a book, and I am its debut author, and I am a writer. Go.
Yeah, so Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Knight is a book. I am its writer, and it's coming out September 3rd. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes. And hopefully you and your friends and your family are going to have a huge party on the 3rd to celebrate.
We are very excited. Yeah, we have a couple local events lined up. I'm very, very excited and anxious for friends and family to kind of get their hands on it for the first time and hear what they think. I'm sure, people like my brother will have strong opinions on things. It'll be fun to hear all that for sure.
Yeah, well, brothers are supportive, but sometimes they like to give us grief. So yeah, I can see how.
Yes, yeah. So no, I think it'll be fun, and I'm proud of the book. I loved writing it so much. It was never written for a specific purpose or specific audience other than I wrote the first chapter because I had this idea of this natural Pumpkin King figure, this folk-like figure that I hadn't felt like I had seen or read before, in terms of just this kind of embodiment of fall. And I wanted to see that, and I wanted to see his relationship grow with his adopted daughter, where they both don't know each other. And Eve, despite claiming to be fearless, as you just mentioned, is very much scared to feel attachment because she's worried she can lose it. And after that first chapter and seeing that, I just kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. And I don't think I could ever write something I personally didn't enjoy or love writing. So if we put the book out there, at least I know I had an amazing time writing it, and I hope that shows in the pages.
It does. It shows your love. It shows your love of writing. It shows your love of fall.
Yes.
Okay, so now that you're a writer and you better keep writing, how's your day look?
Oh my gosh. So coming from the same routine for nearly 10 years, I am very much a creature of habit. However, I wish I had a writing routine. It changes so often, and part of that comes from my wife works in an ER, and her hours are all over the place. So sometimes she's coming home at 3 a.m. Sometimes she's working till midnight, or getting home at 4 in the afternoon. So my day, as much as I'd like to have it set in stone, kind of revolves around her sometimes, just so we can spend some time together and see each other. With Pumpkin Princess 1, I felt like I had a really good routine. I would typically kind of get in the mindset throughout the day, do some plotting, do some kind of just drafting, and then spend a few hours each and every day. Usually in the afternoon, sometimes in the morning, depending on when the mood struck, and just kind of get some words down on paper. And then the next day, I would edit those and then do another section. Now that things have snowballed a little bit in a very good way, and we're working on the sequel. I'm working on the sequel with my editor right now, while also obviously trying to launch book 1. It's a little different trying to establish a routine. because I feel like I'll be in the zone writing book two, and something will be needed to be done for book one, for like casting the audiobook narrator, or working through that. So it'll pull me out of it. Um, so I'm still trying to figure out what that routine is. I'd love to have one. Um, I haven't I haven't found it yet. Right now, it's
You mean
writing when I can.
you mean you're not going to be the one to narrate a Pumpkin Princess?
Oh, I don't think anyone wants that.
Oh,
No one wants this voice talking to them for 10 hours or whatever, however long it ends up being. And no one wants to hear my Pumpkin King or Scrags the Scarecrow. That'd be atrocious.
okay. Show me your. I
Oh
need
no,
your
I don't
Pumpkin King.
know.
Oh no, come on, Steven. Give me your Pumpkin King.
I, I will say whenever, oh no, this is bad.
No, it's
I'm
not
about to
bad.
lose so many book sales, Sally
No, you're
Sue.
not.
Um, I do. So when he grunts and growls a lot. And if I'm sitting there and I'm struggling to write him, I will just kind of like try and grunt and growl at myself. If you've ever been grumpy doing yard work, like you're trying to like, I don't know, dig out a sprinkler head or something and it's wrapped in roots and you're just covered in dirt and mad, that's the mindset I try to force myself into when I'm writing the Pumpkin King. I just try to get like just kind of like a little bit grumpy and write him. But at the same time, like as you know, he's still quite heartwarming and loving. And I think that kind of comes from him being a farmer, right? There's so much about this book set on a farm. And I think that because that always felt grounded to me and real and natural. Um, that I think at its core he might be a little bit grumpy, but at his core he is a bit of a loving caretaker too.
Well, I think you and I both grew up around farms and farmland, so I think we realized that the characters like the Pumpkin King and Scrags are rooted in nurturing and the ground and helping things to grow. And how do you feel that Scrags is helping Eve to grow?
Oh, so yeah, I think he's the like that's a great question. I think he's a good example of the world adapting to Eve a little bit. He's so excited when she gets there. I think Eve to Scrags is kind of this welcome new face on the farm because up till then he's only had the grumpy Pumpkin King and the other scarecrows to live with. And not that the other scarecrows are grumpy, but I think Eve brings in this quite literal, you know, fresh life to the valley. And Scraggs seeing that, when I wrote him, I didn't anticipate him to take so quickly to Eve. I do allow myself some more or kind of organic pathing as I write every day. Um, and Scraggs' love for Eve developed kind of instantly, and I wasn't expecting that. But seeing him kind of be this caretaker and nurturer and pseudo mom almost to Eve, I think shows how how welcoming parts of Hallowell can be, despite Eve not necessarily feeling that way. And it kind of falls back on that core of I wanted the book to feel loving, not spooky, a little bit. And they're both there. You know, Scraggs is meant to be look spooky. The Pumpkin's meant to look spooky. But Eve does find herself cared for there, despite some others that might not want her there.
Well, I can tell you that Pumpkin Princess in the Forever Night is the perfect, cozy autumn read. And I wonder, what do you hope the kids take away from it as they read it?
Ooh, I honestly I hope it's different for every reader. Um, I don't I don't want to sway anyone with my answer to that because I feel when I sat down to write it, um, well, let me take a step back. There's so much going on with Eve being new to this place, um, and having to get to know new people, and that that was very much like I had to switch schools a few times growing up, and I think there's a lot of that there. But there's also Eve trying to develop this relationship with her family that maybe some kids are trying to do with their own, and there's also Eve trying to deal with her own insecurities and her nightmares and her fears. And when we were at Children's Institute, and we did the signing. So many booksellers were coming up and that had read the book and were telling me their stories of adoption or how they loved um, Eve's bravery or how she kind of dealt with being this unwanted um, person that, or felt unwanted in the valley, that everyone's answer, or some people just honestly just loved that it was fall and felt like Tim Burton and felt spooky. I love all those answers. I don't want to say one message I hope people take away from it. I think it was meant to be a fun escapist story rooted in real emotion. And if people just have a fun time, and if readers just have a fun time with it, great. If they feel more of a connection to Eve because of who she is or what she goes through, that's awesome too. I'm happy whenever anyone reads it. That whatever message they take away from it just means the world to me, whatever that message is. I don't have one that I personally think is the message. Sorry, that's kind of a cop-out answer, but
not really. I mean, everyone's going to take a lot of things, because I know that the people I know that have read it have all taken different things from it. I can tell you that I have one 6-year-old review for you.
ooh,
That is that The Pumpkin Princess is the perfect read, and I need more books.
okay.
So keep writing. And I'm going to put you on the spot. 5 words that describe Pumpkin Princess and Forever Night, but you've only got 5 words to sell it to a child.
Gosh. Oh, that's so hard, Sally Sue. Talking scarecrows, Pumpkin King, fall. Those are a lame 5, but it's hard
Spooky.
to. Yeah,
Spooky,
spooky.
atmospheric, cozy holiday
Yeah.
read.
There you go. Your 5 was better.
All I can say, well, it is the perfect way to go to get ready for fall. And September 3rd can't come soon enough.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm very ready for the seasons to change. And there's other seasons in the book. We do get to see Eve have her her pseudo kind of weird spooky Christmas with the Pumpkin King, and it's not all set during the months of October. We do see a full year in the life of Eve in the Hollow Valley, and book 2 is very much starting year 2 in Eve's journey, and that's what me and my editor are working on right now, and seeing how their relationship grows and what happens next for Eve and her little family and friends of spooky characters.
Well, I can't wait to see what's next for Eve. And I'm so glad that we've gotten to spend this little bit of time together and talk about your phenomenal book, The Pumpkin Princess and Forever Night, out September 3rd, and paperback and hardcover for the entire world to see. And I can't wait to see it on the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh, yeah, that would be incredible. Thank you so much, Sally Sue. This was awesome. And your questions were so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the Bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!